My name's Andrew Atkinson. I'm the Conservative Party candidate for the general election here in Wrexham in May. And I'm passionate about Wrexham and the surrounding area. I live here with my wife and my family over in Gresford. And one of the main things that made me want to stand was sorting out our town centre and really putting the heart and soul back into Wrexham town centre. I've got some experience of this when we lived elsewhere, and we've had success in this area too. And I want to bring back those ideas and that passion into Wrexham and that energy to really make it happen and put the heart and soul back into Wrexham. I'm equally as passionate about our industry here in Wrexham and our businesses and really putting Wrexham back on the map as the place to base a business. We've got a huge industrial estate and lots of other industrial estates around as well, and I really want to put Wrexham back on the map. To do that, we need to sort out a number of issues: our infrastructure, our roads, addressing issues like the terrible problems we have on the A483, getting those fixed, mobile phone signal, 3G and 4G that I've been doing quite a lot about, broadband, super fast broadband, making sure all our homes and businesses have got access to that as well, the fastest speeds, and that they can really compete. But also we've got to have world-class healthcare and education here in Wrexham, a fantastic town and surrounding area, make it the best it can be. So when people are looking at investing here and bringing their business here, jobs, and particularly high-skilled jobs, where we can really train people and get people the most opportunity we possibly can, that this is where they'll want to be. So I'm passionate about Wrexham for a number of reasons, and that's just a few of them. One of the main local ones for me, as I said, is the town centre, because from that stems so many other things. The town centre, and I'll tie into that industry as well, because we've got to really have jobs, high-paying jobs here in Wrexham. We've seen a phenomenal recovery nationwide, with 760,000 more new businesses, and we've seen 2 million new jobs created. But we've got to make sure those jobs are coming here to Wrexham. Wrexham has got to be championed as the place to base a business so that we've got opportunity for more people. One of the biggest issues, though, that comes up on the doorstep is the NHS. I'm passionate about making sure that the NHS gets the funding it deserves and that gets spent here in Wales on the NHS to make sure that we really can provide the best possible service. There's a number of policies and plans that I've got, and if anybody wants more information, they can find that on my Facebook page. Business rates is a huge issue. I firmly believe that is an outdated system that needs complete overhaul. If we take less money off people in the first place, we give them a fighting chance of survival, and we don't need as many grand schemes thereafter to try and reinvigorate the town if we just cut people a little bit of slack and allowed them to keep more of their own money in the first place. That would create more jobs. Parking charges, that's something we've got a great team of volunteers here in Wrexham working towards resolving issues for the town centre. Parking charges being one of them. The parking charges are too expensive, but also the bandings are wrong. It's hard to find a car park that you can park in for more than 2 hours. If you find one, there's a big jump in price from 2 to 4 hours. And we're disincentivising people from staying in the town, from sauntering, from being leisurely, from having a coffee and a bite to eat. We're saying to people, get in there, rush around, and go. And that's what we've got to turn around. The look and feel of the town, this I've done a lot on when we lived elsewhere, this has to be addressed to make it as attractive as possible. Look at alternate uses for some buildings. Some buildings will never be commercial again, and we need to have a serious conversation as a town. But fundamentally, the most important thing for me is making sure that we have a people's plan for Wrexham. So that's not by politicians or by the council coming up with this plan and then just doing a bit of a token pat on the head consultation. This is about getting the people of Wrexham together and saying, look, it's our town, it's your town. What do you want from your town? And I can show people ideas, I can show people my ideas and talk about how we would do it. But ultimately, it's what the people of Wrexham want, and we've got to ask them properly. We've got to get more people voting, we've got to get more people engaged in it. And politicians of all parties, my own included, have let the electorate down. All parties, we've seen scandals, we've seen problems, we've seen a culture in politics that turns people stone cold off. My kids are better behaved in their school and nursery at 5 and 4 years old than politicians that I see and I'm interested in politics when I turn on and watch Prime Minister's Question Times or something else. That culture has got to change if we've got a chance of engaging people in politics. I'm doing everything I can. I'm a young person. I speak to people of all ages, including young people, and tell them just actually how important it is to vote. Some people don't see the importance as they get older. I tend to see that people, as they have kids and the like, and perhaps more secure and settled jobs and mortgages, they start to get a bit more of an interest. But actually, there's so much we need to do for young people in this town, and we need to engage those young people. and people have been let down. So it's up to us as politicians, and sadly there's no magic wand I can wave to actually convince people that I'm a decent guy, a trustworthy guy. What I can do is ask people to give me a chance so I can prove that to them, hopefully, and actually show people that I am worth a chance and that things could be different. It's far too complex, and a lot of people don't understand it because of the complexities. There are lots of issues there. In Wrexham, we don't have the links that a lot of people think that we do with Cardiff. I speak to people every day and they see our trade links. I was Liverpool and Manchester and Cheshire, and we need to tap into that and tap into that wealth and really utilise our position as the gateway to Wales and the gateway to the north of England. Inside that political structure, we do have a bit too much emphasis, and I'm Welsh, I'm proud of my Welsh heritage, and I'm proud of the Welsh language and everything else as well, but we need to have a focus on the United Kingdom and our exports to the world and actually making sure that we're competing globally, not having a parochial focus just on Wales and pretending that we have a better connection with Cardiff than we do, because I personally don't think that we do. We've got our links with the rest of the UK and with the North in that way. So I would champion that, but actually we've got a bigger issue than that. Since the Scottish referendum, we see a lot of talk about English votes for English laws and Scottish MPs, but actually we have a Welsh MP, for all the seats in Wales, Welsh MPs who are not responsible for massive issues like education and healthcare, the economy, the rural economy, local government, huge issues and more, so many more, because that's all dealt with by the Assembly members. So in England, an MP deals with all those issues, and in Wales we've got a bit of a duplication going on, and personally I think that needs to be addressed. And in the last government, the Conservatives put forward a boundary review which would have cut the number of MPs, and I think that's really important, because if we're going to have more power going to the Welsh Assembly, which I'm supportive of, we need to recognise there is a smaller role for a Welsh MP, and they need to either really up their game and do fantastic stuff for the local community and pull all of those organisations together, which is my plan, or we need to cut the numbers, or both. Where do I most strongly disagree with the manifesto? On a national level, I'll give you an example. Fracking, for me, I support a moratorium on fracking. So I suppose, with regard to my National Party manifesto, I would be in disagreement with that. My job, if elected, is to represent the constituents, the people of Wrexham, and that's what I'm passionate about doing and what I want to do. I'm not there to represent a political party. I'm more aligned with those views, obviously, than I would be with probably other political parties. But my job would be to represent the people of Wrexham. When I was a councillor in Herefordshire, I've always operated in this way. I voted against my own party plenty of times if I thought it was the right thing to do and in the right way. I also put a motion forward because we were making cuts as a council, the like of which no one had ever seen before, and I thought it was right that we as councillors had a 10% pay cut. So I actually proposed that, and I was voted down by absolutely everybody bar the kind councillor that seconded me, because nobody else agreed that we should have a cut. But what I'm saying is I'm not afraid to stick my neck out. If I don't agree with it, then I will say so. I'll handle that in the right way, but we've got to represent the people and not parties. And we need to change the culture and the style of politics, bring back, that passion, people who will want to vote once you bring back that engagement. If you can have packed town hall meetings and actually show people it's not a pat on the head consultation and their views really matter, and that they can change your view, they can change your mind, and you will vote accordingly. That is unbelievably powerful and really gets people engaged, and we need to do more of that. So I'm very independently minded and I'm proud of that. At the moment it's a very good question actually, but it'd be laws based around health. I think we need to make sure that we have more money spent on health in Wales. We need a ring fencing of the funds, but also, and I know that's assembly issue, so it's very difficult, but I think we really need to look at working together on health, and I would consider perhaps a law that actually brought different parties together, because I think the National Health Service is so important, it's precious and it's valued, it certainly is to me, and I think that needs to be outside of politics. We've got this pathetic political football being kicked around between all different parties, using the NHS that we all value in a way to sort of score points, and I think that's wrong. My party values the NHS, other parties value the NHS equally as much, I think. And I think what we've got to do is pull people together and actually say, right, let's take it outside of the 4 or 5 year political cycles, because the world doesn't work in that way. Let's get a commission together, for the United Kingdom that looks at health and can deliver the best possible outcomes for patients outside of politics, so that people, because The doctors, the managers in the NHS can't forecast past 4 or 5 years because they don't know who the next government is going to be. And that isn't a way to run a service as big as the NHS. So I would look at something based around that, perhaps. I support the prison. I think it was going to go somewhere in Wales. It was fought for by the then Secretary of State, David Jones, to actually have it in Wrexham because of the economic benefits to the town. Now, a lot of people say to me on the doorstep that, there will be, there'll be no jobs. There'll be no jobs because if a prison officer's laid off in Shrewsbury or here, there, or anywhere else, they will get that job. Well, they probably would get that job, perhaps because they might be, they will be the skilled and appropriately trained person for that role. So there is every chance that they may get that role. But there is still a net gain of jobs and money in the local economy for Wrexham. Huge, extra money going into the supply chain. But I've got a lot of concerns as well. And I'm somebody who's not afraid to say when I've got concerns. I'm not blinkered just to say this will be wonderful and, isn't it going to be great? There will be concerns. I've got concerns about funding, extra funding for our health service and for the police force, as prisons, and especially one of this size, could be a huge drain on those resources. And actually making sure that people who live near there, although in the grand scheme of things for Wrexham it's a small number, if you live by it, you want the most mitigation you can possibly have to eliminate any worries. So I'm largely supportive of it. I did a trip down to South Wales where there was 2 different category prisons in Monmouthshire to actually look at those and see how that affected the constituency. And that gave me a sort of modicum of comfort, and it left me with some concerns as well, which I spoke to the ministers about, and I still have those concerns. It ties into what I was saying before, really. It's got to be taken out of politics, in my personal view. We've got to value the NHS, and if we really value it, lift it out of politics, make sure that the squabbling and bickering can stop. And I appreciate people will say that's pie in the sky, there's ideological differences. Well, if there are ideological differences between the parties, there is a huge percentage that we agree on. So let's work on that percentage that there's agreement on. Take that outside of politics, get everybody working on it together for a solution, stop the bickering, stop the arguing, and actually deliver for Wrexham and the United Kingdom. As I was saying before, I support a moratorium on fracking. I think, don't get me wrong, I think fracking could potentially be a very important part of our energy mix going forward. We need a good mix of energy provision, and fracking could be an answer to that. As I said, I'm somebody who's very independently minded, and I went out and sought to do my own research and my homework on this issue. So I've been to anti-fracking meetings. I even managed to find nearly a pro-fracking meeting at one point, but mostly anti-fracking meetings. I've engaged with people who are of that mindset to listen to their concerns. I've done as much research as I possibly can. And I do have concerns of an environmental nature, and I'm not quite sure the science is there yet. So I support a moratorium, as has now been proposed in the Welsh Assembly, a moratorium until 2021. And to be quite honest with you, if it was still a UK Parliament issue in 2021 and it wasn't devolved, and I felt the same as I do now, then I would vote against it. But if those issues could be addressed, then I would reconsider my view at that point. But up until that point, I suppose I'm against it at the moment. I support a moratorium. I think we've got some great candidates, and I'm certainly not anybody who's going to knock any of them. In terms of myself, what have I got to offer? A lot of energy, a lot of passion, and a strong independent mind, and I think that's really important. Somebody who doesn't just fit the party mould, but is actually willing to think what's best for their constituents. So with me, you will know what you get in terms of the bulk of my views are aligned with the Conservative Party, but I want to engage with people before I make decisions. I want to bring back, as I was saying, the town hall meetings. I want to engage people on social media. I want to engage people in sort of new and innovative and exciting ways that actually show people that politics is something you can really get involved in, and your views can shape and change something. As a councillor, I would always seek people's views before I would make a decision. I would knock doors, I would hold meetings in people's living rooms to discuss issues with those residents. Because if you're going to make a decision, go and see the groups that are going to be impacted the most. Go and talk to them, go and seek their views. And that is something that I offer, as well as a passion for just doing the job properly. I am not somebody who's going to be proud of sticking his hand up in the House of Commons like a lot of MPs do and saying, I asked a question of the minister, I asked a question of the minister, here was his response, isn't that terrible, isn't that good, hopefully something will get done now. I'm somebody who's going to say, we need a plan, let's work together, find out what the solutions can be, and let's make that plan happen. If that's outside of the realms of what an MP should be doing, I don't care. If that's right for Wrexham, I'll be the person driving that plan. I think we could always do with more diversity. That's a very good question, actually. If we want to be truly representative, I think we need, to take in a wider sort of range of people at different times. And I think there's often questions about why different people don't feel comfortable coming forward to actually stand for Parliament, and that needs to be addressed as well. We need, it's something that we need more of. We need more, people of different backgrounds. We need more women in Parliament, and again, that comes down to addressing the culture. We need more people we need some younger people in Parliament. We need people, I would suggest, like myself. I think I've got probably quite a different background. I'm a window cleaner from Hightown, so I'm a local guy with sort of what people would refer to as quite a working class background. And I think we need a bit more representation in Parliament of people who actually sort of have done different jobs and got a bit of life experience aside from the normal sort of route into politics that turns us stone cold off. So we need a good mixture, and I think, that is something to be encouraged. One thing I tell people on the doorstep is that I'm not going to make you stupid big mouth promises. It's not my style, and also people are absolutely stone cold turned off it. Politicians have promised too much and they can't deliver. What I promise people is hard work. I will tell people these are my objectives, this is how I want to change politics, this is how I want to do things, these are my plans. But I'm not the kind of person who's going to go out and promise that I will fix this issue, I'll have the A483 running sweet as a nut by Monday lunchtime. I'm somebody who's going to say, look, this is what I will be doggedly determined about doing. This is how I'm going to go about it. But I think people are sick to death of promises. And that has got to change in politics as well. So I'm somebody who's going to be very, very determined, get stuck in, really try and change the way sort of politics works. It would be disingenuous of me or any other candidate to tell you that if elected, for example, we could have direct influence on any of those assembly issues, healthcare, education. That doesn't mean I'm going to be quiet about them. They're going to be voted on in Cardiff Bay and not in Westminster. I will lobby, I will work with assembly members, I will really champion what's best for the people of Wrexham, but we need more honesty to say that actually the NHS is a crucial issue in the election in Wales and in Wrexham, so is education, but actually we will not be able to have the input on it that a lot of people think that we will, and we need a lot more honesty around that. Brilliant. Thank you very much, and I really appreciate the opportunity to have the interview because I think it's important for all of the candidates to set their views out and actually to let the people of Wrexham know what they're passionate about and what they would do. What I would do is just ask the people of Wrexham to consider giving me a chance, please. We have been represented here in Wrexham by the same political party since 1935. That gap is getting so close now that I believe I can do it, and that I have a chance, and that we could have change for the first time in nigh on 80 years. And that's why I'd ask you to consider giving me a chance. I'm somebody who will get stuck into the issues. I will stay in contact with you. I will be independent-minded. I will champion what matters. I will seek people's views not just at election time. I will knock doors and find out all year round what matters to people and how I can serve them better. That is what you get with me, and I would just ask that you would consider giving me a chance. And if you've got any questions before May the 7th or after, please get in touch. Thank you.